She lived in a house where everything sparkled: crystal, gold, marble, yet even the brightest light could not hide the shadows on her soul. Until one day he appeared, barefoot, with a guitar on his back and eyes full not of promises, but of truth. And in that moment, she understood. True luxury is not in being adorned, but in being seen. Her name was Eliana. She was 23, but her eyes looked older, because they had learned too soon how to hide pain. She had married Raul when she was 19. He was twice her age, owned 3 factories, 2 yachts, and a mansion on a hill overlooking the entire city. He gave her diamonds, silk dresses, and silence. The kind of silence that grows when you're afraid to take one wrong step. At first, he was polite, even tender, but over time, his love began to resemble possession. You're mine. You must be perfect. Don't you dare look at other men. If you ever leave, no one will want you. You know nothing. You can do nothing. And the day she finally dared to say no, he hit her. Not hard. Just so you remember your place, he said afterward, handing her a cup of tea with honey, as if nothing had happened. She stayed silent. Because she was afraid. Because she wondered, maybe I really am to blame. Because in that house of luxury, she had been denied the right to make a mistake. Not a word, not a tear, not even a dream. But one day, walking in the city park, a place he rarely allowed her to visit, she heard music. It was a young man, barefoot, in a worn shirt, his guitar slung over his shoulder with a rope instead of a strap. He wasn't singing for money. He was singing for the tree, for the wind, for the little girl on the bench who was crying soundlessly. And suddenly, he looked at Eliana. Not with pity, not with desire, but with understanding. Sometimes pain runs so deep that even tears can't wash it away, he said softly. But music can. She didn't reply. She simply sat down on the bench beside him. His name was Leo. He was 25. He lived in a tiny room above a bakery, worked as a warehouse loader by day, and wrote songs at night. He had no car, but he had a laugh that made flowers bloom in her chest. They began meeting in secret, not because he wanted to steal her, but because she herself longed to be stolen out of her gilded cage. He didn't give her diamonds. He gave her sunsets on rooftops, poems scribbled on napkins, and the right to stay silent when she was hurting. He never said, "You're mine." He said, "You are free." And for the first time in years, she felt that her body belonged to herself. When Raul found out, he didn't shout. He smiled. "You think that beggar can give you what I give you? In a week, you'll be back, hungry, humiliated, alone." But Eliana already knew the truth. Hunger can be satisfied with bread. Humiliation is temporary. And loneliness is only terrifying when you are a stranger to yourself. She packed the most precious things into a bag. Not diamonds, not her passport, not money. But the journal in which she had written everything she'd been too afraid to say aloud. She stepped out of the house, and there, waiting for her on an old moped, was Leo. They sped away through the city streets. But Raul, consumed by jealousy, chased them in his car. They weaved through narrow alleys until they reached a dead end. Raul stepped out of his car, fury burning in his eyes. He was ready to fight. Eliana trembled and hid behind Leo, covering her eyes with her hands, bracing for another blow. But then something completely unexpected happened. From the shadows of the alley, Leo's friends emerged. They were ordinary men, workers from ordinary families, but they stood together, shielding the two of them without hesitation. Raul spat a curse, glared at them with venom, got back into his car, and drove away. They were saved. And from that day on, they began their life together. The first months were hard. They shared one room, one bowl of soup, one pillow, one dream, to simply be together. Sometimes she dreamed that Raoul stood in the doorway, and she'd wake up drenched in sweat. But Leo never held her just to comfort her. 3 years passed. Eliana opened a small book restoration workshop. Leo recorded an album no one bought, but it played in every cafe in their neighborhood. And in the mansion on the hill, Raoul still lives alone. His crystal still sparkles. His marble remains cold. And his bitterness has not faded. But his house no longer holds a woman who's afraid to breathe. Sometimes he gazes out the window and thinks, I gave her everything except freedom. And Eliana, watching the sunset from her balcony, thinks, he gave me everything except himself. And if you ever find yourself torn between luxury and love, remember this: a golden cage is still a cage. True luxury is when someone touches you not with their hands, but with their soul, and never raises their voice, because they know your silence is already an answer.